Welcome to Record, Mix and Release, a YouTube series which takes you through the process of recording a song from beginning to end in your home studio and releasing it to the world. And in this episode, we'll be recording the lead vocals. Hi folks, I'm Mike and I hope you're well, and welcome to the 8th episode in this series where we record, mix and release a song to the world from a home studio. And in this episode we're going to be recording the main vocals. Not only that, but we're going to be doing our initial processing on them, including vocal comping and a little bit of pitch correction using Melodyne. We're then going to go on to record some harmony vocals as well and a few other bits and pieces to add to that. Now, if you want to make sure you're notified about other episodes in this series, or indeed other episodes on this channel, including episodes about home recording, DAWs, gear reviews, plugin reviews, that kind of thing, then please do subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube so that you're notified about those other episodes. Now let's record some vocals. So I'll be going for about 5 takes all in all for this lead vocal, and then I'll be using the comping tools in Cakewalk a little bit later to select my favourite phrases. Now I used to record a lot more takes than this in the past, thinking that more would be better, I'd have more choice. But it wasn't better, it just took a lot longer because loads of the takes just sounded identical, to be honest with you. So I just found that 5 is a really good sweet spot for me. Now I've tried some different microphones, but I've decided to stick with the Rode NT1A. There's something about the sibilance on it which I kind of like for my particular voice, but whenever you can, you should try out different microphones and see which is best for the voice and that particular song. Now with this particular song, there are some very quiet passages and there's some pretty loud passages in the vocal. So I'll be moving in a little bit closer in the verses, and it's also going to make it a little bit warmer as well, which is what I want for the verses. And I'm going to move further away for the choruses when there's a lot more sounds going on in any case, and that will give me the kind of sound that I'm going for, I think. So I'll go ahead and record these vocals and I'll see you in Cakewalk. Met an old man by the sea. Met a man of mystery. He looked so happy and so poor. Didn't seem he wanted more. So here we are back in Cakewalk, but I have to tell you, things didn't go exactly to plan. I tried to record the song all the way through and I had a listen after a couple of takes, and I just wasn't that happy with my performance, especially on the choruses. I felt that I was lacking a bit of energy by the time I got to the choruses, so I decided to record the verses and the chorus separately. I went through and recorded each verse, then went back and recorded each chorus, and I found I had my kind of full quota of energy at that point, and it came out a little bit better for me. Now that is a failing of my own singing, my own performance, but you know, you have to work with the artist you've got, and in my case I'm stuck with me. So there you go, I made the best of a bad situation. Now here I am in Cakewalk, and the next thing I'm going to do is actually select my favourite phrases from each of those parts. So I'm looking here at a verse part, that's the largest part here, that's the first verse, and I'm going to use some vocal comping tools in Cakewalk. Now vocal comping are tools which are available in quite a few different DAWs, I'm not sure all of them, and they allow you to easily listen to each of the takes you've made and select the one that you will keep. So if I open up the tracks lane here, or the takes lane in Cakewalk, and scroll down, I can see all of the different 5 takes there for that verse. So I'm quickly just going to go through and select each of those phrases and highlight them down here, and you'll see it start to split things up a little bit down the bottom. Now I'm not worrying about which take I select at the moment. I'll just undo that and select that again actually, so I get the whole thing. Okay, I'm not worrying yet about which take I'm grabbing, so I may as well just grab the top one. Now, what I'll be listening for as I go through each of these takes are little nuances. Of course, I'll be listening for pitch and making sure I was singing the right words and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking for it to be technically correct, of course, but I'm also looking for sort of nuances, little expressions in the voice. Sometimes when I'm doing 5 takes, I'll experiment with a little bit of different phrasing and all that kind of thing. And that brings me to a very good point, because that's part of the reason why I'm doing this right now. Later, I will apply some harmony vocals. And there's really no point in singing the harmony vocals now if I'm going to choose a different phrasing for the main vocal a little bit later when I go through that. So I like to do this vocal comping on the main vocal first, even before I go ahead and record the backup or the harmony vocals which sing along with it, just so the phrasing is set in stone, if you like, before we add those extra harmony vocals. So now I'm going to go through and I can highlight the first phrase here. I can hit Shift and Space on my keyboard and it's going to play it.
I met an old man by the sea.
Okay, that's fine. I can hear it there, but I'd rather listen to it in the context of the music. So I can hit the dim solo button here in Cakewalk. It's going to play the music, but not at the full volume. So I can actually just hear that vocal a little bit more. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift Space to play it again, but then I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard so I can listen to each take. And then when I find the one I want, I just hit Enter, and that one is promoted to the top, and that will be in the final vocal. So let's do that. Shift Space on the keyboard and arrow to select each track.
Met an old man by the sea.
It's the first one.
Met an old man by the sea.
Second one.
I met an old man by the sea.
That was the third.
I met an old man by the sea.
The fourth.
I met an old man by the sea.
Okay, so this is an interesting situation which comes up in comping because, you know, I've been singing this song for 2 or 3 years already, so I'm reasonably consistent with it. And you're probably thinking there, I can't hear any differences between those different vocal takes. And that's because there isn't really much difference between them. And in that case, I just go with gut instinct. It doesn't really matter. I'll go with whatever one is there. You don't need to sweat on this. Don't listen to it for hours and hours and hours and go through each one. It's just a waste of time. Look for pitch and, you know, things for being like that being correct. It's good to get that. But what I'm really looking for is that character. So I think the second one's going to be a better example. So I'll audition the second phrase here. Have a listen.
I met a man of mystery.
This is the first one. Second.
I met a man of mystery.
A little bit different there.
I met a man of mystery.
So far I like the second one best.
I met a man of mystery.
Yeah, so.
I met a man of mystery.
Oh, it's between the second and the fifth there. So what I would tend to do is go through again. I'll just select that one there and I'll play that again.
I met a man of mystery.
Okay, that's cool. And the fifth one.
I met a man of mystery.
About the same. I'm gonna go for
Met a man of mystery.
the fifth one there. So I hit enter on the keyboard and you can see that's now highlighted, and that is the take which is promoted to the top. Now you get pretty quick at this as you go along. You can shift through the song fairly quickly. As I say, I don't like to sweat on it. I just go with my gut instinct. If something jumps out at me and says, yep, I really like that for whatever reason, that's the one I go for. Now, I'm not going to go into any more detail on vocal comping here in Cakewalk because it's going to be different on each DAW. But if you are using Cakewalk, I have made a video about vocal comping in Cakewalk and explained all the tools there. So check that one out. So one of the happy side effects of vocal comping is you end up with your track being split up into lots of little phrases like this. And that's really handy for what I'm about to do next. Now with a vocal, often we're trying to keep it up front. We want to make sure it's really present in the mix and that people can always hear it. That's a main vocal. And we'll be using a lot of tools for that later on. Mostly we'll be using compression, EQ, and some automation. But we can do something here to do kind of broad strokes, and that is to do with clip gain. So we have each of our individual clips here, and what I look out for at this stage is any particular phrases which look a lot more quiet than other ones. So for example, this one would strike me as being very, very quiet. Now I have an opportunity here to just to make it manually a lot louder, but you do have to use your ears, not just your eyes, because it can be that sometimes certain phrases do need to be a little bit more quiet, especially in a beginning section like this where it's just really the vocal and the guitar. Later on, when there's much more instruments, it's easy for phrases like this just to get lost, so it's a good idea to look at the clip gain. So I'd simply take a look at the clip like this, I'd have a listen to it.
He had no shoes, he had no style.
Okay, it actually sounds okay, but let's pretend for a moment that it's too quiet. What I would do in Cakewalk here, it's a little bit tricky, but I go to Process, Apply Effect, and I'm going to apply a gain effect. And here I'm just going to add, let's say, 3 decibels. I'll audition it.
No style.
You see the waveform got a little bit bigger
style.
there. And I'll go to, say, 4 decibels. Have a listen to that.
No style.
That's fine. I'll click OK to commit. And you can see that waveform got a little bit bigger there. Now, I think it's probably going to be too loud in this case because it was sounding okay. But let's have a listen.
He had no shoes, he had no style.
So. Just a little bit too loud. So it's worth going through and just picking out a few of the really bad ones, something that's really getting lost in the mix. You don't have to spend loads of time on this because you'll be doing lots of things to keep the vocal present a little bit later, but a good idea to do it at this time. So once I've done my vocal comping and I've adjusted any clip gain that I want to, I actually then like to commit. I get rid of all of those other takes and I flatten that composition so that I'm just left with the final takes which I'm going to work with. And those are the takes which I will sing against when I'm doing the vocal harmonies. So you can see here all of those takes are gone when I open up that take lane. Now the next thing I'm going to do is a little bit controversial for some of you because I'm going to do a little bit of pitch correction using Melodyne. Now lots of people are against pitch correction. They say that you should just, be a better singer basically, or keep doing takes until you get what you want. And that's fine, you're entitled to that opinion. I used to have an opinion a little bit like that, but I started to play around with Melodyne a couple of years ago, and since then I've just used it a little bit here and there. So you'll see that I do use it reasonably sparingly. So let me go into that now. So I'm going to highlight this little clip here. This is the first verse, and I'm going to hit Control M on my keyboard, and that's going to bring up Melodyne. It's going to apply it as a region effect, and I'm just going to double click down there so it comes up full. Sorry, I've got to actually select the clip, double click and bring it up full. So you can see that Melodyne has already detected all of my different phrases. Now, what I don't do is automatically have it change just absolutely everything. What I tend to look for is any very sort of strong notes in the melody, very particular notes which are sort of a key part of the melody, and long notes, long drawn out notes. So there's a good example here right on the end of this little phrase. You can see this long note here. That probably sounds kind of okay, but I could pitch correct it. It's a little bit sharp by the looks of it. You can see that it's just a tiny bit sharp. I'll just try and zoom in a bit more so you can see that. You can see it's just to the top end of this line here. It should be singing a D. So I like to highlight that. I go up to this tool up here. I don't know what it's called. I'm not a Melodyne expert, and I'll just center that there just to put a little bit more on pitch. Now I may or may not correct the pitch drift as well. Sometimes that pitch drift can be there just because of your kind of vibrato on your voice. So sometimes I like to keep it. I won't keep it in this case. I'll click OK. And there we go. It's just there. So let's have a listen to it.
Met an old man by the sea.
And if I undo it, put it back to where it was and listen to it again.
Met an old man by the sea.
Well, you have to have pretty good ears for pitch to actually detect that. But as I say, that's the kind of thing that I will do, just those very long notes. And maybe these top 2 notes up here, they're pretty well on actually. But, just to give it an example, because they're prominent notes, I would just go like that and just make sure they're a little bit centered. And I would go through just looking for really bad things like that. Now this long note looks quite a bit more off. It's almost drifting into the next note up. So I would almost certainly correct that one just a little bit. Now, as you can hear, if you're, sort of against pitch correction at all, have a listen to this.
Met a man of mystery.
And I want to ask yourself, can you really hear that the pitch has been corrected? I don't think it's very obvious at all. If you don't use the tools absolutely correctly, it can sound very unnatural. So I would go through, and if I really wanted to make sure that it's nice and sweet, I'll just pick out the odd note like that. Now, another place I do it is where I know there's going to be some pretty strong vocal harmony. It's really nice, and you get a very, very nice sound, in my opinion, when you pitch correct. Again, just the main notes of a melody on the main vocal and on the harmony vocal. You just get a really nice sound on the harmonies if you do that. So if you want to debate whether you should pitch correct or not, you're welcome to do that down in the comments. I won't be joining in, but go ahead and do that if that's what makes you happy. Okay, so the reason why we recorded the main vocals now and then did the basic editing in terms of comping and pitch correction at this stage was so that the harmony vocals could sing along with the correct phrasing and melody. Now, the other thing I've actually recorded, as well as some harmony vocals here, is some unison vocals. These are vocals which are sung in exactly the same way as the main vocal, and I've done a copy of each. I pan them left and right, and I've just done them in the chorus to add a little extra oomph. It's a really handy trick to have up your sleeve here if you want to add a little bit more energy to the vocals. So I'm going to start off by playing the chorus with all of those unison vocals muted, and then I'll sort of unmute them halfway through the chorus so you can hear the effect coming in. Let's have a listen.
And I don't buy what I've been sold. The happiness is made of gold.
Unmuted.
Or another one can fill your soul. No, I don't buy what I've been sold. And I don't buy what I've.
Now, I kind of feel they may be a little bit too much. You've got to get this just right. I tend to sort of start off with 0 and then just blend them in. I'll leave them there for now because I'm not really at the final mixing stage at all yet. And I've done a similar thing with the harmonies. So the harmonies, I've recorded them on the chorus and I've added them in a left and a right speaker. And let's have a listen to that.
And I don't buy what I've been sold. The happiness is made of gold. Or another one can fill your soul. No, I don't buy what I've been sold.
So with all of those tracks, the unison tracks and the harmony tracks, I did the same thing as I did with the lead vocals. I went through, I did around about 4 or 5 takes of each one, selected my favorite takes, and then I went through and did a little bit of pitch correction with Melodyne in exactly the same way, just on the long notes or the really prominent notes. And that's basically it for my tracking stage of this project. So just before we finish off this episode, I thought I'd mention a few little miscellaneous items which I added in there. They're all in the form of little bits of percussion. They're all virtual instruments. I'm not going to go into detail with them because there's no new techniques or anything to learn here, but I thought I would just point them out to you. I may or may not keep some of them. First of all, I've got a shaker right at the beginning accompanying the guitar. Let's have a listen. Yeah, I'm kind of in two minds about it. Let's see what we can do with it. I might have it come in just a little bit later. Also, I've got a reverse cymbal. I'm a big fan of reverse cymbals, and that's going into the female break. So let's
Been killed by what you bore.
I'll probably keep that because I really like reverse cymbals. They've got a really nice way of sort of transitioning from one section to another. I really like them for that reason. And the last thing I've got is a good old tambourine. And I actually don't own a real tambourine. Otherwise, I may have actually recorded this. So maybe I should get a real tambourine. Let's have a listen to that.
I don't buy what I've been sold. The happiness.
Probably can't hardly hear it in the mix at the moment, but it's there anyway. So I thought I'd point those things out to you. We've got an awful lot of tracks now, I think 50 or so altogether. So now we need to start tidying things up. Thank you so much for watching this episode in the series. In the next episode, we'll be preparing our DAW for the mix session. Now, if you liked this video, then you can show your appreciation by hitting the like button. It really does help me out. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube so that you're notified about other episodes and content from this channel. And I'll see you in the next video.